listeners. You have landed on episode number 120 of eBay the Right Way. My guest today is SueAnne in Texas. Today's date is July 5th, 2023. A couple of announcements. First is some listener mail. This is from Pam W. She wrote, "Hi, Suzanne. I just started following your podcast about a month ago. I love it. I joined your Facebook group about 2 weeks ago. I started your YouTube channel about the same time. I also joined your premium library. So very helpful and lots of, 'Are you kidding me?' finds to hear about. My husband and I are moving from a mid-century modern 2,200 square foot home to a 122-year-old farmhouse in northern Michigan. It must be torn down to its bones. It will be about 1,200 square feet of living space. We have been married 40 years, so we have a lot of stuff. So I decided to sell some of our stuff. We are not sure how many surprises are on the way with our new adventure, so money and decluttering are essential. Today, I drove past a local garage sale and thought I would just stop. They were selling a few things that showed up in your sales videos and premium library. The find that thrilled me and that I would have had no idea except for your videos is BOLO. It even works. I have not actually listed anything yet, so I will wait to list this find until I have the eBay system understood better and figured out in a few weeks. I can't wait to post it on the Facebook page. It is actually the first thing I have ever bought with the idea of listing it on eBay. I just wanted to thank you for your accessible and charming educational tools. You are my new guru." Pam. And the item she was talking about was one of the Danbury Mint Christmas trees with the dogs on it. That has been on my BOLO list for at least 10 years. I'm going to find one day. But here we have Pam, who's brand new to eBay, and she's been studying up behind the scenes, and she knew it was worth good money, so there it was in front of her at a garage sale. So this is proof that anybody can find anything at any time. Okay, the second sort of quasi-announcement is, and I hate to ask for anything, but if you enjoy this podcast, I would love it if you could leave me a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you use. Reviews help podcasts rank higher in search so that more people can find them. That goes for all podcasts, so take the time to rate the ones you listen to. And if you don't know how to leave a review, whether you're on mobile or the full site or however you listen to your podcast, just Google that. How to leave a podcast review on Apple Podcast. How to leave a review on Spotify. And you can quickly find that information because on some of the sites, it's not real obvious, but it really does matter. Just like feedback on eBay, we all want it. And so I'm just throwing that out there and would really appreciate you leaving a review. Thank you to all my listeners and the ones who've already left reviews. I really appreciate it. Okay, on to the chat with SueAnne.
Hello again, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of eBay the Right Way. Today's guest is SueAnne, and tell us where you're located.
Seabrook, Texas.
Okay, what's that near?
Houston.
Okay. Okay, is that where you go for treasure hunting?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Great. We will get into that more in a minute. Okay. And so we usually start off with what brought you to eBay? How did you stumble into this wonderful world of reselling?
Well, it's interesting to me because I started in 1999. I was a single mom. I had two sons. One was a freshman in college. One was a freshman in high school. And I was on a limited budget. And for back to school, I told my son, the high schooler, what his budget was for back to school clothes. It was $150. And, he was going into high school for the first time. And he thought he had to be cool. So he bought $100 pair of blue jeans. And then he bought a pair of shoes at Target on the clearance aisle. And that's when the bowling shoes were real popular. And so he bought those and he bought a t-shirt. And that's all he had for back to school. And he just used whatever else we had around the house that he hadn't outgrown yet to supplement. So 3 weeks into school, he had a major growth spurt. And if you have sons, you know what this is like. They wake up one day and they're 2 inches taller. And that's what happened to him. And these very expensive, very trendy jeans no longer fit. So I was lamenting with my older sister about this, and she had been selling on eBay for a long time. And she said, SueAnne, just sell them on eBay and get some of your money back. I said, who in the world is going to buy used jeans? She's like, everybody in the world is looking for those jeans. She said, wouldn't you have been delighted to pay $70 for those jeans instead of $100 for the jeans when you originally bought them? I said, well, yeah. So she came over and she helped me. And this is the time, Suzanne, when you had the floppy disks in your camera and you took a picture and you had to take it out, the floppy disk out of your camera and put it in your computer. It was intensive for me, never having sold anything before. It's so much easier now. You just whip out your phone, but it was complicated. Anyway, I sold the jeans for $75, sold the shoes for more than we paid for them. And I was hooked. Like, okay, this is a single mother's dream world. So I started going through the house, selling everything that we didn't use or couldn't need. And then when I ran out of that, I called my sister. I said, what are we going to do now? She's like, well, have you ever been to a garage sale where there's something in the garage sale that has a great bargain, but you don't need it? But it's an incredible price. And I said, well, yeah, that happens. She says, well, the next time that happens, you buy it and you put it on eBay. So that's how I got started.
And that is like the organic way to start. You kind of just put the two worlds together of selling online with available things locally, and you just, that's kind of how it was for me. It was like this epiphany of, I could go out and find things on purpose to resell.
Yes, that was and then of course now that's the fun part, right? Finding the things.
But I feel you on that teenage boy thing, or actually, I guess it starts when they're around 10 and they just start outgrowing everything so quickly.
Yes.
And for me, it was shoes. I couldn't keep up with the shoes. And my son ran track in 5th grade. He was 10, I guess. And he was very good. And so one day he broke his arm.
Oh, no.
Track. And it wasn't even, he was very athletic, still is, but he fell like on the playground, messing around with his friends. Like it wasn't some, thing running the hurdles and then he fell. No, it was just goofing off, So I had just bought the Nike Shox running shoes and those were probably $120.
Oh yeah, crazy.
I'm like, he wore them to school and he wore them for a while anyway, but he outgrew them in less than 6 months. So
yes,
that's when I figured out, okay, I need to watch this kid and watch how quickly he's outgrowing stuff. And he would even say when he went to school, don't sell that while I'm gone. I'm still using it. It's still fit. I just haven't worn it in a while, they knew like hide stuff from me when they went to school or else I'd be going through their closets I haven't seen more of this in a while. I should sell this. But it was very lucrative. And then I became a buyer for those types of items on eBay because, why not? They're not going to wear it very long. So that is a wonderful market to be in, is young men's, teen guys' clothing.
Yes.
It doesn't get worn out. They don't wear it long enough.
It's a strange cycle. You feed them and they grow. I don't know how that
but
works.
It's like all of a sudden they're growing so fast you can't keep up. It's like, really? You need new shoes again?
Yes. I mean, it was really the third week of school where he woke up and the pants were 2 inches too short. It was crazy.
Yeah. Like, what happens? So for the listeners, if you have young men and you're not selling their clothes on eBay, the outgrown clothes, that's definitely something to look into. So obviously you sell way more than clothes now.
Yes.
And I reached out to you because I'm pretty sure you're always on the $100 supersize thread in the Facebook group. I see.
I get what about one? I get them every now and then. They're very exciting when it happens, of course, but yeah, I've gotten lucky for sure.
So let's start off with your store. How many items do you have in your store?
About 675.
Okay. So it's not thousands. That's
no,
good.
No.
Is that where you like to stay, around that number?
Yes. It's a manageable inventory for somebody who does this part-time.
Okay. So let's go into that. What is your life like? Are you retired?
I retired 3 days ago. I know. This is heaven.
So you're not bored yet.
Oh, no. Boredom is never going to. People keep telling me, oh, you're going to get bored. That is no. I have so many hobbies. It's ridiculous. But I've been a pediatric speech therapist for 42 years. And so I worked full time, and I just did the eBay thing to supplement my income and because it's fun.
Okay. So you probably have a pension. Did you work in the schools?
No, I did not. I worked for a home health company. I do have a pension because I used to work in the hospital, children's hospital. So they gave me a pension, but mostly it's from my investments, and I'm not tapping into Social Security for a while. So it's mostly just my investments at this point.
Okay. So I guess what I'm getting at there is you don't really have to do eBay.
Oh, no, I no longer have to. When I started, I absolutely had to. I mean, I am so grateful to my sister for showing me the ropes. And for the listeners out there, if there's somebody that you could teach that needs it and can use it, I'm so grateful to her, because I would have never started it without her guidance and help and knowledge. I'm not a tech person, so just how to do the listing itself. And it's interesting now because I've launched out into another platform, Facebook Marketplace, and my sister's now calling me for advice. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I love this. This is the full circle moment. But it saved me. It improved the quality of our lives exponentially. But now it's a hobby.
Mm-hmm. I kind of follow the same track with just really hustling it when my kids were small, being a single mom, because there's a lot of extras you have to pay for.
Oh my gosh.
I would always tell myself, I would think about this. I would say, okay, can I go back and do this over again? No, I can't. Your kid only gets one graduation from high school. You want to have a nice party for them, or they get invited to go on a beach trip, and you want them to be able to do that. And so I worked round the clock as a single mom, keeping that money coming in. Yes, I did get child support payments from their dad. He was always very good about that. But,
it doesn't go far, especially when they're outgrowing.
It's still you only get to raise your kid once. And a lot of these
Right.
things they only get to do once. And I just wanted them to feel included and like all the other kids that, they could do these special things. So it was a labor of love, definitely.
Yeah. And I put added pressure on myself because I told my sons that I wanted them to study. It was my job to be the mom. It was their job to be a student. I wanted them to study, get into the best college that they could. And I would see to it that they graduated from college debt free.
Mm-hmm.
And then my youngest got into William and Mary. And I really wondered why I made that promise, but I did. And he went there, and thank God for scholarships, but they both graduated from college debt free. And I'm a big believer in a debt-free lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very grateful to be able to pass that on to them, but put a lot of pressure on me. And thank goodness eBay came through for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it really is, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. Especially back then in the early 2000s time, when it was just taken off and people knew what it was. I mean, I look back at some of my records, which I do keep them just so I can compare. And, some months, I think my biggest month was $6,000 profit. And that paid for a lot of things.
Yes, that's a lot of money.
And so, it slowed down over the years because, well, I'm not doing it full time anymore, but, there's so many more items for sale and so many more sellers. That's why I transitioned to vintage and hard to find items because they're not making them anymore. So,
Right. There's a limited supply.
Right. So what kind of things did you sell in the early days versus now? Because this is what, your 24th year?
Yes. So in the early days, I had been told by a lot of people, sell what you know. Well, I'm a pediatric speech therapist. I know toys. So, and I still, when I go to a thrift store, the first place I go is toys. I love toys, and I know all the popular toys. I know all the vintage toys. There's probably not a toy out there that I don't know something about. So I sold a lot of toys and women's clothes, because when you go in a thrift store, 95% of the things in the thrift store are clothes. So you've got to figure out how to sell clothes, because the inventory that you can have, the choices that you can make in a thrift store with clothes is huge. So I tried to educate myself. And back then, you couldn't take your phone into Goodwill and research it right there. You had to know right there on the spot, do I buy this or not? And I was very picky about the clothes that I bought. And, I made some mistakes, and I learned from those mistakes. I used to buy things that I liked, like, this is the cutest sweater, but it would not sell. Just because I liked it didn't mean that the rest of the world liked it. So that was a very hard lesson to learn. It was kind of an expensive lesson, because I went to a thrift store one time and bought 10 ladies' sweaters that I thought were amazing, and nobody else in the world thought they were amazing. So I ended up redonating them. So,
well, and I've learned that the key to that is, if you like it and you buy it, you should wear it, and then it will sell. As soon as you start liking it, that happens to me all the time. I'm like, oh, cute top, I'm gonna wear this today, and it sells. And I even get compliments on it. Oh, I love that outfit. I love that top. And like, well, yeah, I'm only gonna be wearing it this time because it's sold. And I don't tell anybody that, but you can have a nice revolving wardrobe if you find things in your size. And I do that anyway with stuff I get tired of. I just, maybe I only got it for $3, stick it on eBay for 10 or 15, and I make money with clothes that I wear. So,
yeah,
but you're right that with the clothing in the thrift stores, there's just so much of it, and you're already there. So
yes,
it's a time management thing. But if you learn the big scores to look for, like the trucker jackets and the Levi's Big E and the Coogie sweaters and all those things that are so easy just to see on the rack. You don't have to look through all of it. You know, a lot of coats and jackets can sell for over $100. So,
well, and and I live in Texas, and it never gets cold here. So coats and jackets almost always look new. So that's a big something that I look for a lot. One thing that I've learned too in my thrift stores, I go straight to the dressing rooms and look at the rack outside. Somebody has already milled through all those clothes and picked out the cute ones and gone and tried them on. And they're sitting outside the dressing room. So I go there first to see.
I do that too. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Or the end of the racks, like somebody changed their mind. They just stuck it back on in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Just at the end of the rack. It's like, oh, thank you for picking that for me.
Yes. You saved me a lot of time.
Right. So I guess, is Houston a city where people move to from the north? Or
maybe. I mean, it's a huge city. People move here from all over the place. I really don't know.
Well, what I'm getting at is in Atlanta and in Greenville too, but Atlanta more, there's a lot of transitional people, like they're only there for a couple of years to do an assignment, or they moved from the north to retire in the south. That's why I find great winter clothing, is because they've moved down here and they don't need it. So it gets donated. And I especially look for clothing in the off season. So it's summer now. So I'm paying attention to the sweaters and the coats and all that, because most other people are not. And then the opposite in the winter, if they have any swimwear or summer stuff, I look for that too. But I think learning to sell clothing it's a skill. And a lot of people are just overwhelmed by it because everything looks the same to them, or they don't have to look through everything, or they don't want to do the process of washing it, measuring to list it, and all that kind of stuff. But there's definitely, I would say at least 75% of the items in a thrift store is clothing.
Absolutely. And it's very, I really like fashion. So that's helpful. The thing about clothing is that it does take longer to sell, I think, and you have to be a little bit more patient. And that helps when you have, I have 675 items, and probably 400 to 500 of those are clothing items. Mm-hmm. It's the bread and butter for me. And it's not as exciting as finding collectible, but people need clothes and they buy them every day. So,
yeah. So let's talk about some of your clothing sales, or any sales, I guess. If for the listeners, I do prep my guests a little bit with what questions I'm going to ask, because I know it's hard to remember that on the spot. So SueAnne has a little list.
I do. One of the clothing item, there's a store here called Family Thrift, and they, after the item has been in their store for 3 months, they move it to the outlet store, and on the outlet day, everything's $1.75. So I went in there one day just to see what it was like, and it's chaos. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I've never been back. But that day I found a top there that was made by somebody called Johnny Was. I never heard of them, but I loved it. I thought, this is an amazing top. So I bought it for $1.75. And those were the days where you didn't have your phone in the store, because there was no such thing. And I took it home and looked it up, and oh my goodness, Johnny Was is a huge, very expensive brand. And that was very exciting. It opened a whole new world for me in terms of, I now buy Johnny Was for myself. My sister buys it. I introduced her to it, and we love it. And the great thing about Johnny Was is I'll buy it on eBay. I'll wear it for a season. I turn around, I get all my money back. So I'm basically wearing it for free, using it for free. So that was cool.
For the listeners that don't know, it's Johnny, just like it sounds, WAS. And it's a very expensive, but sort of relaxed brand with beautiful embroidery. Some of it has sequins and beading, but I've only found the embroidered pieces. And it's usually like a thin, gauzy material like you'd wear to the beach, or it's made to be breathable and comfortable. But that embroidery is when you know, oh, this might be Johnny Was.
Yes, it's
some of the
very
pieces
hippie.
used can sell for $200 or more. It just depends on the rarity and the color and the size and all that stuff. I found it about once or twice a year. I don't find a lot of it, but I have sold it. And yeah, your heart skips a beat when you see that big fat square Johnny Was tag on the
yes. I think another challenge to selling clothing is that trends change. Like for a while, Eileen Fisher, I would buy anything with Eileen Fisher on it. And I was always puzzled by it because I personally, it doesn't speak to me. It's not something that I would wear, but we have to go back to don't buy what you like to resell, buy what sells. And Eileen Fisher sells. It still sells, but not nearly as quickly and as for as much money as it used to.
I've experienced that too. That's one of my go-to brands.
And I think it's challenging for somebody who enters the world of selling clothing and they find out that a particular brand sells well. And so then they start buying it and it sells well for a few months. And then for whatever reason, it stops or it becomes a lot slower. Chico's used to be another one where if you found a Chico's item, especially in a size 3, you could sell it in 48 hours. But now they're just staying in my inventory for what seems to be a lifetime. And I think it's frustrating, but I've gotten used to it. I realize that trends are going to change. So as a clothing reseller myself, I'm okay with that. But if you're new into clothing resale, I think you have to prepare yourself that these trends change and you need to educate yourself about that.
Right. And Eileen Fisher is also what I call a more mature brand where it's very loose, comfortable. There's no buttons or zippers like on the waist of anything. So it's always elastic and stretchy and comfortable, and that linen or cotton that's breathable. And I think that type of clothing is easier to sell than the very fitted, tailored, like, Ann Taylor slacks or pants or whatever, because the workplace has become so casual now. But you're right. I used to sell Eileen Fisher. It didn't take very long at all for it to sell. And I have some beautiful pieces that they're priced right. I think maybe just the market is oversaturated. People figured it out and there's so much more available. And maybe if you're not using promoted listings on stuff like that, you should try it, because I feel like most sellers don't do promoted listings. And so if you do, then you're going to rank higher in the search. So anyway, that's another conversation. But
I had heard that the reason that people like Eileen Fisher is that every single piece goes with every other piece. So that's why people like it, because when I look at it, it just looks plain. But I'm the kind of person who wants the Johnny Was top with all the crazy embroidery. And then we have this black, solid Eileen Fisher sweater. So it's just not my taste, but
well, and I think some of it is made with organic cotton and higher end materials. And I think they have a recycling program too. Or maybe
Okay.
it's another brand like that, but it'll say on the label that you can recycle it. Don't donate it, send it back to them.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, oh, no, sell it on eBay. That's how I recycle.
That is my recycling project.
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's hear about some of your sales. Exact
So
items.
I had a real fun sale recently. I think I just put it on the $100 thing recently. I found a set of Applause brand Beatles dolls.
I saw that.
Yeah, the whole set. So they were on Facebook Marketplace for $75. And so I messaged the gentleman and we agreed that I was going to come pick them up. And he asked me if I was a Beatles fan. And I said, yes. I mean, who isn't? And he said, well, I'm going to ask you a trivia question when you get here. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want you to look it up. You have to actually know the answer. And when you get here, if you know the answer, then I'll sell them to you for $50. Like,
Okay.
well, okay. It's like, so I took $75 because I do like the Beatles, but I'm thinking, I don't know trivia. So I went there and looked at the dolls and they were great. And he said, so what was the first #1 hit that the Beatles ever had? And I actually knew it. It was, I Want to Hold Your Hand. And he said, here you get the $50. And so I gave him $50. Said, I know that sounds weird, but I've enjoyed these for a long time and I want them to go to a Beatles fan. So I put them in my car and then I started feeling bad. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible person. And then I realized whoever buys these on eBay and spends over 100, I forget what I sold them for, 175, 185, something like that. But they're obviously a Beatles fan. So they're spending that much money on them. So they are going to a Beatles fan. He sold them to a Beatles fan, but I passed them on to a bigger Beatles fan.
Right. Yeah, you're the middleman.
Yes, I don't collect stuff myself. I like a nice, clean environment. So even though those dolls were great, I have no interest in keeping them. So, so what do you think about that when a seller says to you, I want this to go to a Beatles fan, but you're going to turn around and resell it?
I think we're smarter than the average bear. I mean, I've helped people with cleaning out their parents' items after they've passed away or whatever. And those people, when that falls on you, which it fell on me when my mom lived with me, she's still alive, but she lived with me recovering from hip surgery when I started eBay. We went through her stuff and sold what she didn't want anymore, didn't want to carry around with her for the rest of her life. And it was really fascinating when people would buy these things, such as linens from the 1960s, table linens they got as gifts for their wedding, and old photographs and old yearbooks from University of Alabama, and just all this kind of stuff. And the person who bought them on eBay, they were thrilled to be able to find these things. And
right.
One lady had a business where she would come decorate for baby showers, and she had all of these old baby christening dresses and old baby items that was her business. She would come to your house and set all this up for the baby shower. And she was always looking for things like that to add to her inventory of items. And just a lot of stories like that from people that, oh yeah, I went to University of Alabama and our house flooded and my yearbooks were ruined and they were trying to replace them and all those kind of things. So I think we are doing a valuable service. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Reselling has been going on since humans started walking the earth. Hey, I'll trade you this rock for your wife or whatever. But if you think about it, it's nothing new. It's just the way we're doing it is so convenient. But at first, people would guilt trip me like, oh, you're buying stuff from Goodwill and reselling it. All that stuff's for the poor. It's not for people like you. And no, it's not. It's a business, if you're smart, you shop at thrift stores because you don't pay as much for things. But anybody can do it, and you're supporting whatever the charity is. You're giving them money. I would love to know how much money I have put into the world of charity thrift stores in my lifetime.
Yes.
And like, I'm sure it's over $100,000. I mean, somebody could probably buy a house with it. So I had to get over that criticism because when we started, there weren't a whole lot of eBay sellers. There weren't people out to network with and bounce ideas off of and have support for what we're doing. So, I mean, do you feel bad about it?
No, I don't. I felt bad for a little while until I realized that it was important to the man that they go to a Beatles fan, and they went to a Beatles fan. So I feel like his mission was accomplished. Back to what you were saying about we're doing great things. I had a vintage Mary Had a Little Lamb blanket one time, and I got a message from a lady saying that her daughter was undergoing open heart surgery, and she had that blanket. And while the little girl was in surgery, the hospital staff, cleaning staff, came in and took all the sheets from her bed and took them to the laundry and scooped up the blanket, and they couldn't find it. The laundry staff couldn't find it. And she said, well, right now my daughter is still under sedation. She doesn't realize the blanket's gone. And I need this blanket. Like that, you have the exact blanket that she had, and I need it sent as, priority mail as quickly as you can. I'm like, I'll overnight mail it to you. You just tell me the hospital address and it's coming. And I sent it to her, and she sent me a picture of the little girl with the blanket and said the little girl never even did not notice that it's not the same one. So, and that, those are the kinds of things that happen, just serendipity that you don't expect, you didn't plan for. And she was never going to find that blanket anywhere else but on eBay.
Yeah. And that's why I love selling plush and loveys. And I've gotten more into baby linens. I listed Susies Stew. Do you remember that?
Oh, I love, yes.
With the little duck and all that. I found that the other day, and I was like, I had this brand on my bedspread as a little girl. I knew what that was. I'm like, oh, this must be really old if I know I had it. So, but things like that parents now are wanting their kids to have, or their grandkids, like, oh, I had the same one or whatever. There's so many stories and so much nostalgia attached to blankets, loveys, and plush that, I mean, we have to put a price on it, but sometimes it's just like sky's the limit on what this means to somebody. And yes. I don't ever feel bad about pricing. I think I put 125 on that quilt. It was like a comforter. There wasn't another one on the internet anywhere. I mean, I looked for like 30 minutes trying to find this exact one, and I could not find it. But it was definitely, it had the Susie Zoo signature thing on it, and it was that's what it was. If I've got the only one, I can price it however I want within reason. Like, I'm not going to put $1,000 on it because that doesn't happen, but you know what I mean? It's just, and people don't complain about the price.
Oh no, this woman would have paid anything. Mm-hmm. And, she desperately needed it. I think I priced it like $29.99 or something. It wasn't very expensive. I'd gotten it for 50 cents. So
right.
I was happy with that profit margin.
Right. But
so when things like that happen, it kind of, it's very, very satisfying.
Well, because what if we aren't out there looking for these things and figuring this out and making this available to the buyers, there's like zero chance they're going to find it. If you go back before eBay, before the internet, way back, you wonder, how did people find these collectibles? Maybe they stopped at an antique store on the side of the road or went to a garage sale. They've got to be out there hoofing it, finding it on their own. And eBay is just a wonderful service. So I had to reprogram my thinking when I first started this of like, I am providing a service. I'm out there spending hours and hours looking for things that people are going to want. And so to the listeners, especially if you're new, do not feel bad about finding these items, pricing them competitively, and doing this as a business, because you'll start getting feedback from your buyers about how much they appreciate it. Oh, I've been looking for this for years.
Yes.
That kind of thing. And you're like, wow, I am doing a service.
We're personal shoppers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I sold something, and it was another over $100 thing recently, was an accordion. And, people tell you to stay in your comfort zone, sell what you know, which is good advice.
Yeah,
but there's
point.
There's nothing wrong with learning something new or taking a chance. So I walked into Goodwill, and there's this accordion that's clearly well made, and it was $17.99. And I put it in my cart, and I'm thinking, I don't know anything about accordion. So I look them up, and it had a foreign language label, and some of the symbols were not alphabet symbols that I recognized. So I had no idea who made this thing. And it was so gorgeous, and it worked. So I thought, you know what, worst case scenario, I lose money, but it's $18. We're going to take this home. So this is where the eBay community is so great. I'm in another forum on Facebook where eBay sellers helping each other. Mm-hmm. So I put this picture of this on there, and I said, I have no idea what this is, but similar accordions of different brands sell for $200 to $300. So can anybody tell me anything about this accordion? Well, this gentleman knew everything about this accordion. He told me where it was made, when it was made, who made it. He had all kinds of information, which enabled me to sell it and be able to tell the buyer what it was, but it also be able to tell me what to put in my title. And it sold in 48 hours for like $175. So then I start getting a little cocky, and the next time I'm at the thrift store, I see a clarinet. Well, I just sold that accordion. So if I can sell an accordion, I can sell a clarinet. I was wrong about that, Suzanne. I was very wrong about that. So I bought the clarinet, and I paid $35 for the clarinet because I was feeling really cocky about the accordion. And I did tell myself, worst case scenario, I'll get my money back. But what I learned was that clarinets are very temperamental. They have a lot of pads. They have a lot of all kinds of things that can go wrong with a clarinet. So I went to the same group of wonderful eBay sellers who help each other. And they recommended that I take it to a music store, which I did. And the music store person said, all the pads were good. The cork was good. Everything was good. But this was a student model, and it was worth about $70 to $75. So I said, okay, well, I ended up selling it locally for $45. So I didn't lose money. Mm-hmm. But I did learn that I'm not going to buy any more reed instruments. They're very complicated, but mm-hmm. It was a lesson learned.
Well, and I wonder about that accordion, like where it went. Did it go to an Italian restaurant where they're going to walk around and play it?
Oh, I don't know.
Or like somebody out on the street who's just a street musician. You got to wonder, that's a pretty unusual instrument, I guess, in the United States. I mean, maybe in Italy, they have them everywhere, but that's just what I think of when I think of an accordion is
I know,
walking around an Italian restaurant, entertaining the patrons.
It was such a gorgeous instrument, though. I mean, it was physically beautiful. It had leather straps on it. I don't know what material they used to make it, but it looks marble-like. Obviously, it's not marble, but it was just stunningly beautiful and had aged just perfectly. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I could see somebody using it as a decor piece myself. It was just, it was amazing. It was amazing.
That is an unusual find. I don't think I've talked to anybody who's sold an accordion.
Well, I don't even, I wonder about the person who donated it. It's like, who had this accordion and where did it come from? I would love to know. But one of my other big sales was another interesting Facebook Marketplace story. I've started sourcing on Facebook Marketplace. This woman had bought her grandchildren toys many years ago and put them in a storage unit and forgot all about them. Now her grandchildren are adults, so she was selling them on Facebook Marketplace. One of them was a Tough Stuff brand shopping cart. And I told you I'm a pediatric speech therapist. I know toys, and oh my gosh, I am salivating because I want this shopping cart. It had the box and everything. It was incredible. She wanted $10 for it. I could not get in my car fast enough. So I'm buying it. And as I'm leaving her house, she says, do you like Playmobil? Well, yeah, sure. I like Playmobil. She says, I have this Playmobil train that's never been opened. And I really don't know what to do with it. I was thinking I'd, post it. I said, well, how much do you want for it? She goes, I don't know, $50. I said, okay, I'll take that. And then way out the door, she goes, I have another Playmobil item. It was another train set. And she goes, how about $30 for that one? So I leave there with these 3 items. I sold them all immediately. I sold the train for $800. And the person, the one that I paid $50 for, and the person who bought it was so delighted because when he was a kid, he wanted that train. And he'd asked for it for Christmas for 2 consecutive years and did not get it. And he's like, I have the money now. I'm going to buy that train. I'm going to have that train. So he would have paid anything for this train. And it was new in the box and had all the pieces and everything. So that was a lot of fun. And the other train that I paid $30 for, I think I got $300 for that one. And the original thing that I went for, the shopping cart, which was my favorite because I had one of those when I was a little girl, I think it sold for $75. So Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, that was a great day going to that lady's house.
Oh, and and when I was leaving, she goes, I have a box of Playmobil train cars. If you want those, I'll sell you those for $60. And there were like 10 cars in the box, but I didn't have any more money. And I said, because I just come for that one thing and I just, ended up spending $80, $90. And so I said, well, I can go to the ATM and get you some more money, or I can pay you electronically. And she said, oh, I don't mess with that electronic payment stuff, but I'll just trust you. If you want to come by tomorrow, you just take them out. Like, no. Anything could happen, right? Anything could happen between now and tomorrow. So I'll come back tomorrow with the money. And overnight, she changed her mind, blocked me, won't communicate with me. I don't know what I did or said. She got very upset about, I don't know why, but she won't. And I keep looking on Facebook Marketplace to see if she's selling anything else, and she stopped selling on there. So I'm not sure what happened there. It was very peculiar, but I'm kicking myself, but I could not take things I had not paid for.
What age person was she?
She was in her 80s.
I wonder if one of her grown children or somebody was telling her, oh, that's a scam, don't do it. And somebody must have said something to her to make her afraid of continuing, because that seems very abrupt and unexpected. Like, why would she not want more money for her stuff?
I mean, and I didn't negotiate.
Oh, Mom, you've got strangers coming to your house. That's not don't do that. They could rob you. They could beat you up, or, I feel like somebody got wind of this and made her afraid to do it anymore.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. But, I gave her the price of everything. I didn't negotiate. She said that's what it is. I paid her that. So she couldn't have gotten mad at me about that.
So it's probably one of those, it's not you, it's me things. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. Something happened in her world that made her shut down.
Yeah. And I think Facebook Marketplace has become an interesting place to source. You have to be careful because there are people out there scamming. There are people with counterfeit items, but I've had good luck personally. And I think that's because I'm in a big city and there's a lot of people on Facebook Marketplace clearing stuff out.
And a lot of them either don't want to fool with learning online selling. That's what I've come across is, oh, that's too much of a hassle. I don't have time to do that. Or it's just so convenient and you get your money immediately. And a lot of people do take Venmo or PayPal because I think we're becoming a cashless society. But
Yes.
I think you're right. It is growing and more people are doing it. And it's just easy. You don't have to ship anything. You just take some pictures. You can negotiate. Well, I mean, there is shipping on some listings, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You can just do it locally. So, and then back to the train set, there's that buying back your childhood again, where maybe you didn't get that toy as a child or you had it and something happened to it. And then now you're grown and you have money. You can buy those things. So yeah. And do you have grandkids?
I have one grandson. He's almost 2.
Okay. I thought you were just this model grandparent with a bunch of grandkids because you post so many toys on on the sales. I thought she must have a bunch of grandkids because she knows a lot about toys.
All my former clients are my grandchildren, I guess. I love children. I love toys. I love playing with toys. I believe that Maria Montessori, I believe, said that a child's job is play, or their work is play. And I've seen that in my career. And so I enjoy toys. I love toys. And if I could, I would just sell toys. But in a thrift store, oftentimes they're missing pieces, or there's just not a good variety because parents are going in there and buying toys for their children at thrift stores. So there's more competition for buying the toys than the clothes. But one thing that's very profitable is if you find something in the thrift store that's missing pieces, sometimes people are looking for pieces. So you can buy that and just sell replacement parts for certain items, like popular games, or Little Tykes is famous for making wonderful sets of things. And it would be like a garden set, and it had a radish and an onion, and somebody had the set and they're missing the radish. If you have the radish, you could probably sell it for $25, because they want to complete their set.
Well, and I remember we played a lot of board games. I was born in 1966. So we didn't have all the electronics and all that stuff. We played outside, we rode our bikes, and we played board games. And there was always a couple of pieces in there like, yeah, the dog chewed that one up. You have to do the chewed up thing. Or we lose pieces and you'd use a coin, a penny. You have to be the penny because the pieces are missing. Or there was 4 of us in 5 years. So a lot of things were missing, like down the air register, or got flushed down the toilet, or just my brother would be outside when he was middle school age, blowing up stuff with firecrackers, like, let's see how high this Tonka truck can go. I'm gonna blow it up, and they'd see how high it would go in the air. And I don't know how we survived being a kid in the 70s.
I know.
We were kind of just out there doing our own thing, and my mom's inside doing laundry and making food. Y'all go play outside. She didn't care what we were doing. Yeah, I feel that, especially on the vintage games, that people are looking for the rest of the pieces.
Yes.
So how do you sell those? Do you put all of them together, or do you do them separately, or how does that work?
I usually try and do them all together. And I think it's important that you put the word replacement in the title, because people do search for them that way. If that doesn't, and then every now and then you'll get a message, can you just sell me this one piece? And, sometimes I'll do that. It's just, if you're selling the whole set for $15, just buy the set and use the piece you want. But, I love to do that because I want complete sets. So.
Right. And since you specialize in toys, Can you give us a few what to look for? Like, what are your go-to items?
Anything Playmobil. Familiarize yourself with what Playmobil figures look like, because a lot of times in the thrift stores, they'll be just in a bag with a bunch of other things, and they're quality toys. They will last forever. They do not break. They are great for open-ended imaginative play. Children of all ages like them. And Playmobil is a company that makes plastic toys, and they're very lifelike. And so you'll have they have a lot of miniatures, like little plates and cups and little miniature food and toasters. And children love playing with those little miniature things, but they also have people. So familiarize yourself with what Playmobil looks like so that when you see it, you'll know what that is. Sort of scan through what the popular TV shows are for kids, because they change constantly right now. Bluey is very popular. Years ago when my son was young, it was Barney. Barney doesn't sell very well anymore because nobody knows who he is. Sesame Street doesn't sell great anymore because kids aren't watching it the way that they used to.
Right. My son was into Land Before Time.
Oh, yes. That's a great
one. He would, and those stories that somebody always died and he would cry. He would just watch it again. And it's like, why are you surprised? This happens every time you watch this. But
this is never
I have sold Land Before Time, like blankets. And I don't think the VHS tapes are very profitable, but that is something that we experienced. And then my daughter she was more into Barney when she was little, and of course Barbies, and they watched that Big Comfy Couch.
Yes. We find a doll.
Yeah.
Yes. Those Molly dolls will still sell for a lot of money.
Yeah, that's in one of my BOLO books, that giant Molly doll with the big red nose. Looks like a clown person, but I look for that too. So, if you're in our generation, are you a baby boomer or Gen X?
A baby boomer.
Okay, so it's what our kids had back in the 90s and 2000s, that kind of stuff. And even some of the SpongeBob. I mean, I know it's still on, but some of the early stuff. But I hijacked your thought there on what to look.
No, that's well. I was another seriously be on the lookout for, but they're extremely hard to find. Blue's Clues made this little notebook that you could write in and wipe it off. That's
in one of my BOLO books, and it's
my gosh,
close to $200, I think.
It's crazy. And I had one at one time, and my son had it, and I sold it on eBay. But if I'd known, I would have kept it for another 20 years and then sold it.
I know.
I still got good money for it, but Blue's Clues that has had two different hosts.
Right.
And the older host, I believe his name is Steve.
Yep, Steve. Mm-hmm.
Things with his picture on it are very sellable.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't recently, but a couple years ago came across a shirt in a child size that was a Nickelodeon brand Steve shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I sold that for $90. It was a boy size 4 Steve shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And but if you, going back to familiarizing yourself with what's popular now, of course, Toy Story toys sell really well. It's interesting to me that Lego sells very well and Duplo does not. I love Duplo. I think they are amazing toys. I buy them for my grandson. I buy them at the thrift store and just add to my collection for him and for the kids that I work with. But for some reason, it doesn't, they don't resell as well. And I think they're amazing toys. So back to the thing, just because I like it doesn't mean it's going to sell.
Right.
Have to keep telling myself that. Why don't people want this cute little Duplo astronaut? He's adorable. But if he's a minifigure astronaut, oh yeah, people want him. I don't understand, but it is
Well,
what
and
it is.
another show that just popped into my head was Bear in the Big Blue House.
Yes.
Loved that show. I watched it with my kids. It was so
So my
sweet.
kids were into Thundercats.
Yes, yes, my son loved Thundercats. They're on the move. Yep. That would come on and we'd sing the songs. And Justice League.
Now we
Remember
didn't
that
get
one?
into that.
It
My
was
boys
like
weren't into that.
superheroes, but they weren't Superman and maybe they were all the superheroes together, but it was called Justice League. And he would watch Thundercats and Justice League, and then we'd have to go pick up his sister from school. So anyway, yeah, so I'm not in the know of what's going on now. I guess I need to do more research on that, but it just everything changes so quickly. It's
It does
really
change quickly.
stay on
But
top.
if you know what the popular shows are and you know what Bluey looks like, and then you go into Goodwill and you see a bag of Bluey figures, you'll know what they are.
Right.
I took my goddaughter to Goodwill with me a year ago, and she pulled out this bag. She goes, "Oh, these will sell. These are Kratts, Kratts. I've never heard of them. I don't watch the show, but she was right. Boy, they sold for $75 a whole little bag of Kratts figures. I never heard of them, but she had, thank goodness.
I guess I need to hang around with more little kids, like when I'm out at the pool, and ask, what's your favorite show? What's your favorite toy? Be like a undercover researcher. Go to the source, because I'm just not around little kids. So
I think you could probably Google most watched children's videos.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
they're watching these things. There's a line of stuffed animals that's come out recently called Slumberkins. Are you familiar with those?
That is a new one for me.
Interesting story about Slumberkins to me, because they went to Shark Tank and they tried to get a deal. They didn't get a deal because the Shark Tank people were, this is ridiculous. You're making stuffed animals. We're not going to invest in that. And they are making probably millions of dollars now selling these stuffed animals. But they also have launched a TV show, and they're not called TV shows anymore. What are they? They're just online. You can stream these episodes. Mm-hmm. So when they went online and started streaming their shows, their plush became much more popular. Mm-hmm. And people are finding Slumberkins now in the thrift stores, and it the tag says Slumberkins on it. There's stuffed animals, and I recently sold a cardinal, a little stuffed animal Slumberkins cardinal for $45 that I got at the thrift store for 99 cents.
Excellent.
So it's just a matter of you can just Google what are the most popular children's videos, and that'll help you figure out what kids are watching, because they don't watch TV anymore. Like they stream this, like Slumberkins, you have to stream it. It's on Apple TV. Mm-hmm. So kids don't watch television. They just watch things on their device. It's a whole new world out there. It's crazy.
I think that's the product life cycle, where when it's new and the supply is low, that's when you're going to make your money as a reseller. And then the product grows to maturity and it's everywhere and you can't even give it away. So you have to stay on the cutting edge of what's new enough that people want it, but the supply has not caught up with demand, because all those toys, Monster High, which those have really come back. The older ones are worth, some of them over $500.
It's like amazing.
The original, I think they call it like the first run or something. But it happened with those. It happened with the Juju Pets when they first came out.
And Fingerlings.
Yes.
What are they called? Fingerlings? The ones that. Yeah.
And just all those types of toys that you just have to be on the cutting edge to make money. And a lot of times we find out about them too late. Right. So, anyway, well, we are getting to the end here. So I have a new question. What are you reading?
I'm reading 2 books. One is called Lessons in Chemistry. I just finished it. It was very, very good. It's a bestseller, so obviously it's a very good book.
Is it about chemistry, or is it like
No, it's about a woman who I believe she's in the 50s or 60s. And I don't remember the year now, but at a time when women did not study biology and chemistry and
science.
So she wants to do this, and she does it. She's very successful, but the problems that she has being a woman navigating through this situation. And then I'm also reading this book by Joshua Becker called The Minimalist Home.
Yeah, and I've followed those minimalist guys for a while. And one of their things is if you can replace it within 20 miles, 20 minutes, and $20, and you haven't used it in 6 months, you don't need it.
Yes. It's very interesting. This has been a journey for me. My older son and his wife are very much into the minimalist lifestyle. And like for his birthday, I wanted to buy him a new pair of running shoes. And he's like, I already have 2 pair of running shoes. So if you bought me another pair, I'd have to get rid of one of the pair that I have because I'm only going to need and use 2 pairs of running shoes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very disciplined about it. And it's really, it's actually helped my eBay business because I'm more picky about what I buy, and the profit margins on what I buy is higher because I'm super picky now. Whereas when I first started out, I needed a sale, any sale. If the profit margin was $8, I was delighted. And that actually was my goal. My goal was to make $8 for every item I sold. And now if it's only an $8 profit, I'm probably not going to buy it unless it's something that I would thoroughly enjoy selling. If it's a toy and the profit margin is small, I would probably still buy it. But I'm much more selective because I don't want to clutter up my life with all of those tasks.
Well, and with the minimalism, I think you have to have a reason to do it. There's got to be something driving you, because I've worked with sellers for many years, and one of the themes of why they came to eBay was someone died and it fell on them to figure out what to do with their 100,000 items. And I've seen this over and over again, and you're dealing with so much emotion from losing a loved one, and then you've got this overwhelming mountain of stuff. It takes time out of your life to deal with it. A lot of times, all of the surviving siblings don't help. It falls on one person. Yes. Or if it's your spouse, it falls on you. And so just after seeing that and almost counseling these people, I'd be on the phone with them, they'd be crying and very upset. And it's just, I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that person that leaves behind in my wake all this stuff for my kids to deal with. So that was really my motivation of becoming a minimalist. And even within my eBay business, like small things, easy to ship, things that don't expire, things that just don't take up much room, and it doesn't take over your house. And so if you came in my home, you would not know I'm an eBay seller. Everything is put away in closets or those fabric cubes, or it looks like furniture.
Yes.
So, and then that's the motivation for me, was like when I sold my house back in 2015, that was a great opportunity to downsize because, you touch it once. What am I going to do with it? Sell it, donate it, give it away, trash, whatever. And so I think you just have to have some kind of motivation, even an emotional motivation. Like one day you just get sick of all the crap in your house.
Yes.
I've got a relative that her house is just like you can't even walk. It has so much stuff in it. And there's 2 people living in the house. And she just likes to buy stuff. And those are the kind of estate sales and garage sales we like to go to.
Yes.
But it's a very, stuff is a very emotional thing. It's energy draining, and you think about it a lot, and like, what am I going to do with this? And so on and on. But those are two great books. Thank you for sharing that.
My
And
pleasure.
thank you for coming on the podcast and giving us all these great.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
And we'll look for some more sales from you on the Facebook group.
All right. They'll be there.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again, SueAnne. You are definitely a wealth of information. On to today's trivia question. Since we touched on minimalism, this actually works in our favor as resellers. As more people become minimalists and downsize, that means more stuff for us to find to resell. So the question is, how many storage facilities are there in the United States today? Here are a few seconds to think about it. Okay, this data is from the website Becoming Minimalist. The United States has upward of 50,000 storage facilities, more than 5 times the number of Starbucks. Now that is 50,000 locations, not the units inside the locations. 50,000. So that's like 1,000 per state. Currently, there is 7.3 square feet of self-storage space for every person in the United States. A few more facts about all the stuff out there. There are, on average, 300,000 items in the American home. Think about that. The average size of the American home has nearly tripled over the past 50 years. So we are definitely living in an age of too much stuff. And still, 1 out of every 10 Americans rents off-site storage, the fastest growing segment of the commercial real estate industry over the past 4 decades. Over the course of our lifetime, we will spend a total of 3,680 hours, or 153 days, searching for misplaced items. The research found we lose up to 9 items every day, or almost 200,000 items in a lifetime. Phones, keys, sunglasses, and paperwork top the list. So the more stuff you have, the more often you lose things. So this is a case for becoming minimalist, because the less stuff you have, the less likely you are to lose items. Okay, also the book SueAnne mentioned by Joshua Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, those guys have a great podcast called The Minimalist Podcast, and they have been doing it since 2016 and have over 400 podcast episodes as of today. So check that out if you want to know more about the minimalist lifestyle. Okay, that is a wrap for episode number 120. Next week, my guest is Lynn in New England. You might remember her from a previous podcast. One of her hobbies is metal detecting, and she just returned from the United Kingdom doing something called mudlarking. So she will fill us in on that adventure, as well as what's going on in her eBay store. Thank you so much for spending your time listening to my podcast, and don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and tell your friends. Abundance is unlimited, and another person's success does not rob you of yours. So let's all be successful together. Have a great week on eBay. Bye, everybody.